The Bible then says that, and he bowed himself down. From putting yourself up here, you'll find yourself back here. But there's a quotation that I like from Billy Graham, and he says that, be aware, there are certain things that have not changed in all these centuries, right? And he also goes further to say that the first thing that has never changed in all these centuries, he says that the nature of. Greetings and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back. Now, if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed to the channel, right, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit also the notification bell so that you do not miss when a new video pops up, right? Now, keep in mind, guys, that we're now available on TikTok at sinner saved by _grace, and you can be sure to find us as well on that platform. Now keep in mind as well, now this is to my podcasters, you can find us as well on YouTube at Ashley Gerera, and you can be sure to follow us as well on that platform where we speak about the verses and we show the verses that we talk about on the podcast. Now also, guys, keep in mind that you are now available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, as well as on Overcast. And you can be sure to find us on any of those 6 different platforms, right, when it comes to the podcast, or rather even all of them, where you can then find us there and follow us, right? Now today, guys, we are going to be speaking about the second lesson about leadership, right? Second lesson about leadership. Remember, we said now we're in the book of Kings, right? And we're now on chapter 2 of Kings, right? So today we are going to be speaking on leadership as a whole, guys, leadership as a whole. And now we are going to find out what is it that a leader must have, right, when it comes to the book of Kings. And we're going to be zooming in on the book of 2 Kings, 1 Kings chapter 2 verse 2, 3 and 4, right? That is where we're going to be getting our context for today. So now it reads as follows. I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong therefore, and shew thyself a man, and keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments, and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the book of the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. Verse 4. That the Lord may continue his word which is spake concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, they shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. Now, guys, when we come to this point, right, now we come to realize that David was about to die, right? And he now is talking to Solomon, his son, and before he goes into throne, and he tells him these words, and he says, you know what, my son, for you to be able to be prosperous in all that you do, right? For you to be a good leader, for you to be a good king over the children of Israel, for you to lead the children of Israel in the right ways and, in the right path, I want you to know what, to keep in mind that first thing that you should do before everything else, right? First thing that you should do. David does not tell him that, the first thing that you should do, make sure that the armies are in order, or make sure that these people and these people are fed. No. David does not do that. But when it comes to Solomon, he tells him that the first thing that you should do is to follow God's law, right? Follow God's law, number 1, his statutes, his commandments, and all his judgments, and follow his testimonies as it is written in the book of Moses, right? And David is telling his son this, and he says, the first thing that you should do before you go to anything, right, or before you even think of making your own plans or how you're going to revamp the kingdom, the first thing you should do is to put God first. And this is the first lesson that we are getting, or rather the lesson that we are getting from this whole scenario, right? Where David tells him, if you want to be prosperous in everything that you do, make sure that you put God first. And that is our message for today, guys. And this is the message that we're also coming and we're getting today, right? Where God then says that if you want to be successful in whatever discipline you are involved in, right? Before you even think, I have this plan to expand, to go to new heights, I can do this and I can do this, I can apply these methods and these strategies. Before you can even think, okay, I need to hire this person and this person and that other person, before you even think of doing all of that, even if you might be thinking to yourself, these are great ideas, before you go to that point, before you take yourself to that point, the first thing that you should do is to put God first, right? And it is to put God first. That is the first thing that you should keep in mind, guys. And know that once you put God first, it says that you will not fail in anything that you do, right? It says that in all your ways you shall be prosperous. Only, and the reason, only the condition, guys, only if you put God first. And that is the lesson that we are getting for today. So in terms of leadership, guys, remember we said the book of Kings, leadership, as you are going into that position, or as you are aspiring to be a leader one day, keep in mind, in everything that you do, decisions that you make, always put God first. You know, there are a lot of things that are changing, and there are a lot of things that you can put before God, right? But there's a quotation that I like from Billy Graham, and he says that, be aware, there are certain things that have not changed in all these centuries, right? And he also goes further to say that the first thing that has never changed in all these centuries, he says that the nature of God has not changed in all these centuries. You know, everything has changed. There's been technology, there's been advancement in all these things, you know, and it says that these things have changed, but the nature of God has not changed in all the centuries. Now, even if we take to our Bibles and we go to the book of Malachi chapter 3 verse 6, God says that I am the Lord your God, I do not change, which then rather solidifies what he had said before, right? That out of all things that have changed, the nature of God does not change, right? So imagine putting your trust as a leader, putting your trust and making sure that God is first in everything that you do, a God that does not change. Imagine how far you can go in life, guys. So that is our reason why we should end up putting God first. Now, if we go further in the Bible, guys, and we read the book of First Kings chapter 2, and we go to verse 19, right? Verse 19 then tells us that, Bathsheba therefore went unto King Solomon to speak unto him for Adonijah. And the king rose up to meet her, and bowed himself unto her, and sat down on his throne, and caused a seat to be set for the king's mother, and she sat on his right hand. You know, there's something that is actually fascinating when it comes to Solomon. Even though he is now the king, he still is humble enough to know that this is his mother. You know, he knows that this is now my mom or my mother, and I'm not going to exalt myself to that point. And yesterday we talked about it. Remember, on the previous episode, we talked about how we should not have pride. The first thing as a leader, do not have pride. And when it comes to this point, right, even though Solomon is now the king of Israel, he still goes and bows himself before his own mother, and he humbles himself. What position have they put you in today that you've started to look down upon the people where you come from, right? Some of us sitting here or watching this at this moment, you have been promoted to certain levels, and now you think everyone else, you know, is below you, and you think other people, their opinions do not matter, or you start to even overlook them, and you start to walk on top of them, right? But here we see a perfect example of Solomon, right? When he was now king, he bowed himself before his mother, and he humbled himself. He even stood up and went to meet her, right? Which shows a certain level of humbleness, which we talked about yesterday, right? And if you haven't watched that, I'll leave the link right here so that you can be able to go and watch it and understand where we are coming from, right? So as we go on about our lives, guys, even Denzel Washington, in one of his speeches, he says that I've kept God in my life, and he has kept me humble. Right? So as you become a leader, remember the first thing that you should do, put God first. Put God first, guys. I cannot stress this enough. Put God first in everything that you do, in whatever it is that you're going to be involved in. Put God first, and everything else, and follow his judgments, guys, and his commandments as they are written in the book of Exodus, right? Go and follow them and understand what God wants for you in your life. And that is our message for today, guys. So as you go on about your lives, remember, in everything that you will ever do in your life, out of all the things that have ever changed in the world, in regarding to technology and all of that, remember, there is a God who says, I do not change. It's not like the wind, where one day it's this way, the other day it's the other way, the other day is coming from the top, the other day is coming from the bottom. You know, his wave, or the waves of the ocean, where one day it's tossed this side and tossed that other side. He's not like that. He does not change, right? So put God first and put your trust in him. That is the first thing you should do as part of leadership, guys. And that is what you should learn. And as Denzel Washington said, keep God in your life and he will keep you humble. May God bless you. Whatever it is that you say, rather don't say anything at all. Rather don't say anything at all, rather than for you to say something and not act upon it, right? Or for you to say something and not fulfill it.